Now, we'll invite Sergio Gago onto the stage. Please welcome him with a big hand. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
Good afternoon. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today are the 6 stages to get to agents. So in order to do that, we need to start from like baby steps, start crawling, then walking, then we run. And then we will end with a live demo that hopefully works all right. So please bear with me. I'm going to do my best. But hopefully it will be a way for me to show you what agents really are. So my name is Sergio. I come today from Germany, where I live, and I am the Managing Director of AI and Quantum Computing at Moody's. And at Moody's, we do one thing. We help companies manage risk or making risk decisions on their daily operations. Usually we focus on the financial industry, but we also work with many corporates. And we have tons of data, whether it's firmographic data, financial data, a lot of news, and a lot of things that we can relate with the Washington Post as well. And we use that to help companies make those decisions. So you can imagine that generative AI has been a breaking change, a fundamental change for us. But it was not easy. It hasn't been easy. We are in a very regulated industry, heavily regulated. We cannot afford to say something that is false or that is not backed by hard data, whether it is the revenue of a company, the rating score of a company, and so on. So, of course, it comes with a lot of risks, obviously hallucinations and beyond. So, again, we're going to go through 6 steps that will lead all the way to agents and some of the things that we have been working on at Moody's in the last 3 years. The first stage when one company, usually banks and insurance companies, not the fastest moving companies ever, is denial, right? So you get your compliance teams, your legal teams, your cybersecurity teams coming to you and saying, hey, this has way too many risks for us. The information is outdated, you're going to get hallucinations, there is no fact-checking, there is not logic, direct evidence on the output. And this was only back in 2020, end of 2022, right, when ChatGPT came out. So this was the main detractor for a lot of companies to not use these type of systems. And they stay there, and they call it a day. Now, luckily, some other companies started thinking, what do we do in order to fix these problems? And obviously, techniques like retrieval augmented generation that make the chunks and try to use your data and your context to make the answers help a lot. And that has been one of the techniques that we have been using extensively, and that's the fundamental and the base for what's coming afterwards. But you need to pass over the denial phase and figure out ways to convince your stakeholders that A, your systems are going to be working in the right way, and you need data to prove that. And 2, you need to convince your regulators and your compliance and legal teams that this is going to be done the right way. Ring-fence environments, your intellectual property is secure. There's not going to be a company siphoning all your data out and training their models and so on. Once you manage to do that, you get to the second phase, which is your hype and the experimentation. And this is fantastic because it's when you do your proofs of concept and you get all the stuff going on and you create wow effect in your organization. But beware, because not everything is golden. Suddenly, every single executive thinks that every single problem can be solved with ChatGPT, and that's not true. Suddenly, you start seeing problems when human is not anymore in the loop, and that is indeed a problem. And suddenly, you get companies that want to get the benefits of generative AI without covering the data basics. You cannot just leapfrog out there. You need a proper data governance strategy. You need your data quality and so on. So once you do your homework, you build your platform, your orchestration system, you educate your people, you create all these training systems, you have your data pipelines and so on. I'm sure you've heard of the term garbage in, garbage out. So once you avoid all that, you can go and execute your proofs of concept. But beware, running a proof of concept is extremely quick. It is very easy and nice, and it can take you a weekend to create an amazing system that will make your CEO go crazy. But then taking that into production, my friends, that's a whole another level. And all those systems, from cybersecurity considerations to scalability to security and so on, are really, really important. So think about it this way. You're running a POC that uses your company data in order to create a chatbot that you want to put in front of your users. Fine, you test it on your laptop, you connect to one of OpenAI's endpoints or Anthropic's or any other company, and it works like a charm. So you go and put it online, and suddenly you get hundreds, thousands of users pushing on your endpoints. And then it doesn't work anymore because you have not considered how those systems are going to scale. In which regions are you deploying your models? Are you paying per token or are you paying per GPU? And many, many more considerations. So the chasm between the proof of concept and the production delivery is what puts off most companies out there. And you need to partner up with the different teams in the organization, with your engineering teams, your data platform teams, cybersecurity teams, front and back end developers, and it needs to be a company-wide effort. If you try to put a production application, Gen AI application, from a data science team or a research and innovation team, it will not work. You need to cross-collaborate across all the different parts of the organizations. So, once we get all that and we put all that together, we move on to the hype and we can get into the next stage, which is the fear-mongering, right? How do we make sure that we have the right capabilities, and how do we make sure that we cover our liabilities? A lot of these things were things that we did not know back in 2022 and 2023. But during 2024, a lot of that started to get covered. For example, regulations. Right now we have in Europe the EU AI Act, in Singapore as well. There's some really good regulation that we can use as a baseline. We still don't know exactly how the case law is gonna work on this. And some of the specific implementations will start coming up in the next few months. But still, we have a really good framework that at least gives us guidelines on how to work. There's the California SB 1047 that was blocked in the end. The ISO 42001 that affects not just generative AI, but AI in general. There's the that famous call for slowdown back in 2023, and the UN governing AI for humanity, and many other papers, regulations, and proposals that are coming in literally any country. So your organizations will have to cover all this, and most likely your legal teams will come and say, hello, are we sure we're covering all these things? Specifically in finance, critical infrastructure in many countries, we also have a responsibility towards our countries, towards our clients, towards all the stakeholders to make sure that we use also with ethical elements. The garbage in and garbage out. So how do we control that the data that we put in supports our elements? So you may remember that slide where this guy was leapfrogging the stairs. And it's because you need a data foundation to work on that. It's impossible to create a system unless you have proper data interoperability. So when I'm talking about different data sets in my organization, they can talk together and I can intersect them. Entity resolution. If I talk about Tesla and I want to know the revenue, I'm referring to Tesla Motors, not to Tesla the inventor. Or Amazon the company, not the rainforest. This may sound simple, but it is not, because there are many companies with the same name, and you need to have a single set of solutions that can cover all that. When a user asks a question to a chatbot, or with a voice, or anything like that, that data needs to be top-notch. Then who says that? When you get an answer from the system, who is saying that that answer is correct? What is the lineage and the validation of the answer? This is obviously what we use retrieval augmented generation for. What are your citations, your validation and verification? And most importantly, the way that you run in your LLM ops way, the way you run benchmark continuously. What do I mean by this? Let's say we build a chatbot that's able to ask questions to all our corpus of data. And we run that with one of the latest GPT models, for example. And we deploy that with a collection of prompts that seem to work quite well. And then we go and put it in production. All right, that's working fine. But how do we really know it's working well? We need a golden data set, whether it is 300, 400, 1,000 questions with the right answers that tell us, hey, this is the level of accuracy, this is the level of completeness, this is the level of alignment with the way my company wants to answer those questions. And we need to do that systematically, almost like your QA automated test, if you're a software developer in the room. So whenever I change something in my prompt, I can run all those tests again and see what changed, if anything. What does this mean? That whenever GPT-5 comes out, now we have this 12 days of OpenAI, they're calling it, and there's a lot of news, right? Now we got the Sora, the video model. Whenever you have new models, maybe you want to use a cheaper model, one of the smaller Llama, for example, you need to know exactly how is that affecting your accuracy levels. And it doesn't cut it with your data scientist just typing things and saying, hey, it looks okay. No, you need to show data to your different teams, to your governance teams, and say, look, we had 99% accuracy, and now we're using a model that's smaller, and we get 98% accuracy, but we're paying 1/10 of the price. Is it worth it? One use case may be okay, another use case may not be okay. So that's going to be your per use case decision. And of course, permissions and entitlements. Inside your organization, outside your organization, with your clients, you need to control who can access what. So the answer for a given question may be different depending on who you are. So I'll give you one example. One of the very first use cases that we built internally was an internal policy assistant. Like a large financial institution, we have a lot of policies, a lot of compliance questions, and we actually have a team answering all those questions. Questions like, hey, can I fly business for a domestic flight? Can I accept a very expensive gift from a customer? And many other questions. Can I plug a USB device, a USB stick on my laptop? From IT policy to travel and expenses and travel compliance and so on. So we built a RAG-based chatbot that helped all our employees, our 14,000 people, use that. But as it happens, there are different policies depending on whether I work on the ratings agency in a very highly regulated place of the company, or if I am in HR, if I am a senior executive, or if I am a summer intern. So based on that, the answer has to be different depending on who you are. And if you're a client in one of our products, our research assistant, which is the first product in the financial industry that went live in 2023, depending on your subscription, you will get one answer or the other. So these 5 pillars are fundamental to start walking. Now we move from crawling over to walking. And then with that, usually companies go on the first internal use case. Once they cover all that, they try to build something that's helpful inside. In our case, we built something, I know our naming capabilities can be improved. We called it Moody's Copilot, not very original. And it is effectively an internal system. You can imagine it as a marketplace of use cases, where we provided the whole foundation for anybody in the company to create their use cases. Almost like create your own assistant or create your own agent type of system. And inside of that, and in our Slack applications, in our team applications, you can do all the typical things that you can imagine, like summarize PDFs, but you can also use and pull queries, websites, get financials and any other data like this, or even get into very complex analysis, graphs and plots like this one that I need to look at for 20 minutes in order to understand it. But we go beyond with something that we call Doc Inside. So you can upload any document, PDF, PowerPoint, Word, MP3s, videos, YouTube videos, anything that you want. You can decide who in the whole organization, internal or external, can have access to that data, and then start ask questions to that. So for example, DORA, which is a new regulation in Europe that's about operational resilience for banks. It's going to be very important for any bank doing operations in Europe. I can ask, okay, what is a lead overseer as a type of role in this certification, and who can be qualified for being part of that role? And then it will give me a pretty good answer on that based on that specific regulation. It's like a 200-page document. So this one is a pretty good one. But if I ask, hey, could you read the whole regulation? And then analyze it and write a full article for me, 10,000 words, and review the article, then a RAG system, a retrieval augmented generation system, is not good anymore. Because what RAG does, what retrieval does, is it tries to search inside your whole knowledge base. What are the elements that are relevant for that question? Then we'll bring it will bring them back, and we'll try to create an answer. What I want the system to do here is to analyze the whole document at one time. So now with the system that we call the analyze feature, you can get a page, and you see here, page 1 out of 5. It gives me the full article based on that. So another example, I can actually put a whole book, the whole Harry Potter book, can go inside, and then I can ask, or in this case it's a Spanish classic book, but you can imagine Harry Potter or The Lord of the Rings, whichever is your favorite. And I can ask, can you write a comprehensive description of each character? It doesn't matter how often they appear, even if they appear in just one page. Tell me in which pages they appear, their biography, their description, who are the main friends and the main foes in the novel. And it gives me the whole thing after analyzing the whole book. So you need to think also the different ways of ingesting the data and the use cases that your company creates. All right. So after some time, you get happy with all this. Everything works well. You have your whole company using these systems. You're able to analyze some return on the investment. Some people are using that to translate files. Some people are using it to create new documents. A lot of people are using it to summarize emails. A lot of people are using it to create long emails that other people summarizes afterwards. So it's all fine. How about external use cases? Things that you put in front of your customers. Now those are major words, right? That's more critical. Things can go wrong. But still, you have to do it. So in our case, we released the Research Assistant. It's something that's embedded for our B2B clients in our moodys.com platform. And it's effectively a system that can have access to all our research, our hundreds and hundreds of, 100 and something years of research that we have in the company. And is helping already a lot of people creating the research from either credit memos, analysis, and so on. Now, when you release something in production, now you have to evaluate what are they doing? What are the use cases that they want? What kind of throughput do you need? So now you need to put a whole team on top of the AI system, and it becomes a production-ready system. All right. I know I'm going very fast, but I want to reach to the demo. Now we're running, and we're ready to get into our marathon, which is the next generation, agents. Who has heard about agents here? All right, that's good. I'm sure if I ask every one of you what is an AI agent, I would have one answer that's different from each of you. Because a lot of people are using this as a kind of a hype generator. So I'm going to try to give you my take on agents. But I believe this is, first of all, the theme for 2025. And it's what will transform completely the financial industry, among others. So one way of looking at this is by stages of maturity, right? We all started on stage 1 with assisted intelligence. This is what we all did with ChatGPT and similar systems. Basically, it's a chatbot that allows us to talk to it, maybe in written or maybe by voice. And you can use it to synthesize data. You can use it for run tools and do some basic interpretation. So it's already helping you a little bit, but it has a lot of problems. We solve those problems with RAG and other types of frameworks and technologies, and with that we arrived to augmented intelligence. And what we achieved with that was giving context to the system. We allowed the system to assess the implications, where you are, who you are, what you have access to, and now you can augment the individual. Something that helps us being kind of cyborgs mentally. And those systems are what we all built during 2024, right? And we've become really, really good at improving them, at making them with high accuracy and so on. This is what we have in production, stage 1 and stage 2. How about going to the next level? So once we start automating tasks, is when these things start getting very useful, either by executing tasks or even creating recommendations. This is the first thing that agents can start doing. They have some rules, they have some personality, if you will, or agency. That's what they're called, agents. So rule number 1, to be an agent, you need agency, right? You need to have your own set of internal rules. And they have extensive context that in many cases is dynamic. What do I mean by this? You don't access documents in a knowledge base anymore. Now you have access to APIs, to sensors that help you get data. If you're a robot, you may have a LiDAR or you may have cameras, but if you're a financial agent, you may have real-time access to stock prices, to market-moving news, to real-time research, and so on. And then finally, which is what we are all working towards, but this is still in early research, is the stage 4, which is when these agents can work among themselves, they can plan, they can execute on those plans, they can iterate, and they can effectively take on big challenges by themselves. So just as a quick explainer, you can imagine the differences almost like a direct LLM, a ChatGPT. You ask a question, put a prompt, the LLM creates an answer, boom, done. No big deal, right? If you use retrieval augmented generation, the LLM or your orchestration system, whether you build it with LangChain or any other tools, you will have some context in different ways, and the LLM is going to use that context in order to give you the perfect answer. So all good. And this is where we are today, most of us. For agents, what you have is a system that has reasoning capabilities. It will prepare a plan, and it will use the LLM and the memory to create a set of actions and tools in order to give you the answer. So I know this is a little bit abstract, so I'm going to try to go step by step. Imagine you're the person, you're the human, and you ask the agent for an objective. I want to build a piece of software. Maybe I want to create a whole report on a given company or a portfolio. So the agent is not going to give you an answer like a ChatGPT system would do. It would interact with some resources, it would use its memory, its prior knowledge, and with that, it will carefully create a plan, and it will show you the plan for you to approve or not. Maybe you don't like it and you want to change something, or maybe you approve it. Once you're happy with your plan, this agent will put that into its own system and will go to his peers, to his army of workers, AI workers, and will delegate work. Maybe some of those agents are credit analysts, maybe some of them are software developers, maybe some of them do other specific tasks, but they will execute all the tasks in the plan and will give those the output back to the main agent for evaluation, and once that's done, it will give the final output to you for approving or maybe asking for more iterations. So think about this more like an army of little things that are helping you maybe write a piece of software and what we call today service as a software, not software as a service, service as a software. So you say, I want an application that tells me real-time stock prices for companies, and then these agents will create an application for you on the spot. Or agents that go and evaluate everything that can be known about a given company. So you can imagine use cases in finance for doing any kind of research and investigative work, credit risk analysis, portfolio analysis and what-if scenarios, or stress testing, role personalization, extremely useful in sales, for example, and contextualization. So these are just some of the examples of things that we are experimenting with at Moody's with agents. Effectively is having a whole army, a swarm, I really like the name of swarm, of little bots that are all working together. And what this means is that they interact with each other, with you as well, but they can talk to each other. It's what we call multi-agent simulation. Now, I know this is pretty complex to understand and to explain in a 30 minutes presentation. So here's the thing, I'm gonna try to do a demo, a live demo, so hopefully everything works, to show you how we're thinking about the agents. Now, this is not a product, right? This is an experiment that we do in order to show you how the agents work. Normally, if I wanted to show you that, you would only see a black screen with a lot of text moving at light speed. So not very beautiful. So what we have done has been creating a little game with in a VR environment. So you are going to be able to see those agents right here in front of me, and I'm going to ask them a few questions. So are you okay with that? All right, let's give it a try. So now we can switch back to the laptop. All right. This may, all right. Can you hear okay? I'm going to select the agents I want to work with. You can see an investment consultant, an economist, a news analyst, and here there are my friends. Hi, can you tell me the stock price for Tesla today? Now this one is thinking.
I'm checking on the web for the most relevant information on Tesla's stock price today. Please hold on for a moment. Tesla's stock price today shows a gain of approximately 5.97%. You can find the most current and detailed information by visiting Google Finance. Is there anything else you would like to know?
What is the latest rating Moody's gave Tesla?
Let me review my archives on Tesla's latest ratings, and I'll have a detailed answer for you shortly.
So each of them has different access to tools, real-time information from Moody's, and they can disagree with each other.
I'm currently piecing together information from my resources to provide you with the most informed response. Thanks for your patience. The latest rating for Tesla, as assigned by Moody's, is BA3 with a stable outlook. This rating was issued on March 20th, 2023. This indicates that Tesla is considered a moderate credit risk.
Great. Thanks for the information. Corporate researcher, can you provide some additional context on what implications this rating might have on Tesla stakeholders?
Tesla's rating of BA3 from Moody's suggests that the company is considered to be a moderate credit risk. This impacts stakeholders in several ways: investors and creditors. They may perceive Tesla's debt as relatively secure, but with some caution regarding potential risks. This rating typically leads to moderate interest rates for borrowing. Suppliers and customers, they may view Tesla as a fairly stable partner, promoting trust in transactions and agreements. Shareholders, the BA3 rating may influence their perception of financial health and long-term viability, possibly affecting stock valuation and investment decisions. Tesla's ongoing performance and strategic decisions will remain critical in maintaining or improving this rating. Please hold on while I consult my records on the company's information. I'll provide you with an update shortly. I'm pulling from multiple trusted sources to make sure the response I provide is accurate and complete. Facebook is now known as Meta Platforms.
All right. So would you so much? Thank you. So what you've seen is a really raw demo of those agents, but one of the most interesting things was when they said, I don't completely agree with that. Because they did have different agencies and different personalities and different access to data. Each of them could bring a different idea to the table. And what we have demonstrated is that you can have one assistant connected to a lot of tools and ask that assistant one question. And then here you can have a collection of agents, each of them with different personalities and different tools. And this group, funny enough, like what happens with humans, will give you a better output. Now, this is research. There's a lot to work on this in terms of interpretability and control and so on, and knowing that the data is correct. We have here, I have that QR code. Is from a paper that we just published a few weeks ago that talks precisely about this, if you're interested. But I really wanted to show you how it would feel to be working with an agent. So now you can imagine, you can be at a board meeting, maybe a board of directors or an executive meeting, and next to you is one of these agents that is listening in and supporting the group, augmenting the group. These agents can access much more data in a deeper way, much faster than us. We can still make the decisions and have that cognitive ability. But if we have them really supporting and augmenting us, it's almost like when you use Google Maps to get somewhere, right? You're still driving, but you know that there is a little thing helping you navigate the city. So hopefully you like this presentation. I'm really glad that it worked the first time. Thank you very much.